Hi kids!
Hi, Wiz.
And welcome to the treehouse. Now, this is no ordinary treehouse. It's a very special treehouse because it is the treehouse of
Knowledge.
good. Hands in the air, those of you that like stories. Excellent. Hands down. Now I have a question for you. How many of you have ever encountered someone who believes that they are better than everyone else? Hands down. Now today's story is about someone just like that. Let's see how he fares and what the lesson in today's story is. Kaylin, please pass me my magic book.
Sure, Wiz.
Thank you. Aha! Today's story is entitled The Prized Jacket. Old Mr. Wind was bragging to the clouds about how strong he was, how he was more powerful than anything else in the skies. The clouds dared not disagree with him because he could blow them away with just one strong puff. One day, when the skies were calm and Mr. Wind was nowhere to be seen, the clouds saw kind Mr. Sun. How are you today, Mr. Sun? You certainly look cheerful and bright. The clouds were happy that Mr. Wind was not around today. They did not like him as much as they did Mr. Sun. Mr. Sun smiled at the clouds and replied, I am feeling just wonderful today. Thank you for asking. And how are all of you clouds today? Well, we're kind of okay today, the clouds answered. We really hope you're going to stay around today. We like you much more than that mean old Mr. Wind. He just brags all the time about how strong he is, and we're tired of it. Mr. Sun chuckled. He's up to his bragging again, is he? He's told me that he's much stronger than I am, but I just ignore him. Does it really bother you that he brags so much? Yes, replied all the clouds in unison. Very well, said Mr. Sun. I will talk with him. The clouds smiled and cheered. They were white and puffy. Happy clouds. A few days later, Mr. Sun was high in the sky when Mr. Wind appeared. The clouds started moving across the sky, not very happy that Mr. Wind was blowing them around. Hey there, Sun, called out Mr. Wind in a mean, gruff voice. What are you doing up here looking so happy? Can't you tell that I'm here? I want things to be miserable. I'm just naturally happy, Wind, said smiling Mr. Sun. I hear that you've been bragging again about how strong you are. And why not? Replied Mr. Wind. After all, I am much stronger than you. He took a big breath and blew the clouds all the way across the sky. Laughed mean old Wind. I don't think you are stronger than I am, Wind. In fact, I am stronger than you. I just don't go around bragging. I provide light every day so the plants can grow, so the animals can find food to eat, so the colors can be bright and beautiful. Mr. Sun was proud of what could be done thanks to the light and warmth he provided. Well, I'll show you who's stronger, boasted Mr. Wind. Just at that time, an old man wearing a handsome jacket was walking down a path. Let's make a bet, the blustery Wind said. The first one to get that old man to take off his jacket is stronger. Okay? Mr. Sun smiled and nodded his head. The bet was on. Old Mr. Wind took a breath and blew on the old man. He barely noticed it, and he kept on walking. Mr. Wind took another deep breath and blew really hard at the old man. The man responded by fumbling with the button on the front of his jacket. finally getting it closed and putting his hands in his pocket. This made Mr. Wind even madder. He took another really big breath, sucked in lots of cold air, and then blew it all with such a great force at the old man. The man almost fell down from the strength of the wind, and while barely holding on to his jacket, he pulled up the collar to protect his neck and ears. Finally, Mr. Wind gave it one more try. He filled his mouth with freezing cold air, and then he blew and blew and blew. All it did was to make the old man hug the jacket even tighter around his shivering body. Mr. Wind growled in anger, and he gave up. Mr. Sun just smiled. His smile and warmth took the chill off the cold air blown down on the man by Mr. Wind. Mr. Sun continued to smile, and his warmth also continued. The old man took his hands out of his pockets. As it was getting warmer, the birds chirped and the bees buzzed about the brightly colored flowers. Mr. Sun's smile continued to grow, and the warmth grew even more and more. The puffy white clouds started returning to the sky. The old man was getting warm, and he unbuttoned the jacket and folded down the collar as he walked along the way. With one more beaming smile, Mr. Sun generated so much warmth that the old man was too warm to keep the jacket on. He took the jacket off, draped it over his arm, and smiled as he continued on down the path. Seeing that he was defeated, Mr. Wind left for the day. The clouds all rejoiced because their friend Mr. Sun had proven to be stronger than Mr. Wind. The old man had taken off his jacket because of the kindness and the warmth from Mr. Sun. The end. Thank you, Kaylin.
You're welcome.
Now, you don't have to tell me. Just put up your hands. Hands in the air, those of you that know the core value in today's story. Excellent. Hands down. Now, to discuss the core value in today's story, let's welcome Auntie Shauna.
Hi, kids.
Hi, Auntie Shauna.
How are you today?
Good.
And how was today's story?
Great.
Can anyone tell me what they think today's core value may have been in the story? Yes, Annalisa?
I think today's core value is helpfulness.
Helpfulness. Yes, Justin?
Respect.
Respect. Chelsea?
I think today's core value is loyalty.
Loyalty. Yes, Kathy?
I think today's core value is friendship.
Well, those were all great values. But to unlock today's core value, we have to open the magic chest. Do we remember the word that unlocks the magic chest?
Fireone.
Fire one. And today's core value is?
Kindness.
Now let's hear from Annalisa today's core value.
Being kind and warm-hearted makes others happy and can bring a smile to their faces.
And what can we say about Mr. Wind? Emily?
I think Mr. Wind is mean.
Mean? Joshua?
I think Mr. Wind is boastful.
Boastful? Yes, kid?
I think Mr. Wind is unfriendly.
Unfriendly. That type of unkind behavior can affect our friendships and our relationships with others. What do we think of this type of unkind behavior? Chelsea?
I think his unkind behavior makes others feel left out.
A little bit left out. Kathy?
I think his unkind behavior makes others feel sad.
And sad. But sometimes when we're unkind to others, it means that we're not showing enough respect for their feelings. What do we think Mr. Sun was trying to teach Mr. Wind? Annalise?
Mr. Sun was trying to teach Mr. Wind that showing kindness can sometimes make us feel happy and can bring a smile to our faces.
That's very true. When someone is kind to you, you do smile. Joshua?
I think Mr. Sun was trying to teach Mr. Wind that it's easier to be kind than trying hard to be mean.
I think that's true. Sometimes it's a lot more energy to be mean. And finally, what advice would we give to Mr. Wind? Kathy?
I would tell him to apologize to the clouds for the way he treated them.
To apologize.
I would tell him to follow Mr. Sun's actions and be nice to others.
Okay.
You
Joshua?
should show kindness to others.
Show kindness. Kaylin?
To treat others the way you would like to be treated.
Well, that's all great advice. And to show kindness to everyone, we must show love, respect, and consideration for their feelings. Now let's hear from Chelsea today's 3 main points.
Kindness is something that everyone can have and everyone can share. There's plenty of kindness available for everyone. Just like the clouds, most people like others who are kind to them, unlike Mr. Wind, who always wanted to blow the clouds across the sky. You don't have to brag about being kind. Mr. Sun was kind and he didn't brag about it, but the clouds still came to him because of his kindness.
We know that not all winds are bad, and we also know that too much sun isn't always good. However, most people prefer a nice sunny day over a cold windy day. Wouldn't you agree? In this story, Mr. Wind was trying to prove how powerful he was just because he could blow the clouds across the sky. But when he blew and blew and blew, as he tried to force the man to take off his jacket, it didn't work. In fact, the man held on tighter to his jacket. Mr. Sun was liked by everyone. Well, everyone except Mr. Wind. When Mr. Sun smiled and gave off warmth, his kindness brought happiness to the man on the path. As the day got warmer, the man took off his jacket and he smiled. He was happy, and so were the puffy clouds that came back into the sky. When you are kind to other people, it makes them happy, and when they're happy, you'll see a smile on their faces, and you will feel good. So which would you rather be? And which would you rather want your friends to be? Mean Mr. Wind or kind Mr. Sun? This short discussion is only a start to help parents, guardians, teachers, youth leaders, and mentors help children to understand the core values. Meaningful discussion is a great way to teach and reinforce learning so that children can eventually internalize and apply their knowledge to make the right choices. These important life lessons will mold and positively influence each child's future as they become more caring, emotionally balanced citizens with a keen understanding of what a values-based life is all about.
Character Education's The WIZ Within Us was brought to you in part by the Ministry of Education, the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago, the National Lotteries Control Board, the Caribbean New Media Group, and Blink B Mobile.